hit record so I don't forget. Okay, so today is going to be hopefully an easy class for everybody because I don't want to do anything too difficult for you. Start on part 2. We're going to start on part 2 because we reviewed part 1 last time. Yes, we reviewed part 1 last time. So kind of reviewed everything that you learned before spring break, right? Yes. Yes. Are y'all with me? Is everybody with me? Yes. I know we got Ureli still in bed, but everyone else is like here. Yeah, we got good. Okay. Bree's giving me 2 thumbs up. All right. So, I have found an audiobook because we seem to have a lot of issues with everyone reading on their own. I figured since we have to spend time together anyway, that I have an audiobook where we can start reading part 2 together. And part 2 is not very long. It's only 20 pages. So, and I have a study guide that's been posted for you as well on, what, I'm not even going to try to stick with, I'm just, okay. Josue, can you hear me? Okay, okay. So, so I'm going to play, hopefully you guys can have your books and follow along with the audiobook and part 2. And then let's see that there's Sebastian. And then follow along with and then that way we'll have some of part 2 read and you can fill out and you can read the rest of part 2 on your own. Like I said, part 2 is only 20 pages. Okay, so the assignment is to read part 2. Okay, that's the full assignment, to read part 2 and complete the study guide. That's okay. Okay. And complete the study guide for part 2. Okay, so the assignment for today is to read part 2 and to read the study guide, or to read part 2 and complete the study guide. I can't even speak today. Again, I'm having trouble speaking this week for some reason. Seems to be an issue. Maybe I need to put caffeine back in my diet. I don't know. So let's see, there's Jordan again. Let's see if she can hear. So does that sound like a plan for everybody? Okay, we can start reading part 2 and we can at least start reading together. So I know that you guys at least can start reading. And since we have trouble sticking on a pattern with everybody and everything, does that sound like a plan? Okay, Jordan, can you hear me now? Can Jordan hear me now? Thumbs up, maybe? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Or tell me that you can't hear me in the text. I feel like I'm on the Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? She says her volume is up, but she still can't hear. Let's see if I can text her. Okay. It might be her speakers. See, it's still telling me she's not in the meeting. So something's going on with that. So I don't know. It's still telling me she's not in the meeting, even though I see her.
Right, that's weird.
So I wonder if it's her speakers. Does she have headphones? Oh, she fixed it. She said she fixed it. So you can hear me now? Okay, she can hear me now. Okay, cool. She can hear me now. All right, we're good. All right, so I'm going to turn on the audiobook and it is narrated by, I don't even know if you know who it is. Miss Pierce might know. It's Tim Robbins. You know who Tim Robbins is? Tim Robbins? No? Okay, never mind. I do. He's an actor. So he's a very, very tall actor. Very, very tall actor. So, And I'm going to share my screen so the audio will share as well. So this is going to start at part 2. So make sure that everyone is on part 2 of your Fahrenheit 451 if you want to follow along, or if you just want to listen. No sleeping. No sleeping. If you're laying in bed, don't go to sleep. Okay? Because I like to call you out if you're sleeping. All right.
The Sieve and the Sand.
Can you all hear it?
They read the long afternoon through, while the cold November rain fell from the sky upon the quiet house. They sat in the hall because the parlor was so empty and gray-looking, without its wall lit with orange and yellow confetti and skyrockets, and women in gold mesh dresses, and men in black velvet pulling 100-pound rabbits from silver hats. The parlor was dead, and Mildred kept peering in at it with a blank expression as Montag paced the floor and came back and squatted down and read a page as many as 10 times aloud. We cannot tell the precise moment when friendship is formed, as in filling a vessel drop by drop, there's at last a drop which makes it run over. So, in a series of kindnesses, there is at least one which makes the heart run over. Montag sat listening to the rain. Is that what it was in the girl next door? I've tried so hard to figure. She's dead. Let's talk about someone alive, for goodness sake. Montag did not look back at his wife as he went trembling along the hall to the kitchen, where he stood a long time watching the rain hit the windows before he came back down the hall in the gray light, waiting for the tremble to subside. He opened another book. That favorite subject, myself. He squinted at the wall. That favorite subject, myself. I understand that one, said Mildred. But Clarice's favorite subject wasn't herself. It was everyone else and me. She was the first person in a good many years I've really liked. She was the first person I can remember who looked straight at me as if I counted. He lifted the 2 books. These men have been dead a long time, but I know their words point one way or another to Clarice. Outside the door, in the rain, a faint scratching. Montag froze. He saw Mildred thrust herself back to the wall and gasp. Someone, the door. Why doesn't the door... Voice, tell us. I shut it off. Under the doorsill, a slow, probing sniff, an exhalation of electric steam. Mildred laughed. It's only a dog, that's what. You want me to show him away? Stay where you are. Silence. The cold rain falling, and the smell of blue electricity blowing under the locked door. Let's get back to work, said Montag quietly. Mildred kicked at a book. Books aren't people. You read and I look all around, but there isn't anybody. He stared at the parlor that was dead and gray as the waters of an ocean that might teem with life if they switched on the electronic sun. Now, said Mildred, my family is people. They tell me things. I laugh. They laugh. And the colors. Yes, I know. And besides, if Captain Beatty knew about those books, she thought about it. Her face grew amazed and then horrified. He might come and burn the house and the family. That's awful. Think of our investment. Why should I read? What for? What for? Why? Said Montag. I saw the damnedest snake in the world the other night. It was dead, but it was alive. It could see, but it couldn't see. You want to see that snake? It's at emergency hospital, where they filed a report on all the junk the snake got out of you. Would you like to go and check their file? Maybe you'd look under Guy Montag, or maybe under fear or war. Would you like to go to that house that burnt last night and rake ashes for the bones of the woman who set fire to her own house? What about Clarice McClellan? Where do we look for her? The morgue? Listen! The bombers crossed the sky and crossed the sky over the house, gasping, murmuring, whistling like an immense invisible fan, circling in emptiness. Jesus God, said Montag. Every hour, so many damn things in the sky. How in hell did those bombers get up there every single second of our lives? Why doesn't someone want to talk about it? We've started and won 2 atomic wars since 2022. Is it because we're having so much fun at home we've forgotten the world? Is it because we're so rich and the rest of the world's so poor and we just don't care if they are? I've heard rumors the world is starving, but we're well fed. Is it true the world works hard and we play? Is that why we're hated so much? I've heard the rumors about hate, too, once in a long while over the years. Do you know why? I don't, that's sure. Maybe the books can get us half out of the cave. They just might stop us from making the same damn insane mistakes. I don't hear those idiot bastards in your parlor talking about it. God, Millie, don't you see? An hour, a day, 2 hours with these books, and maybe we... The telephone rang. Mildred snatched the phone. Anne, she laughed. Yes, the White Clown's on tonight. Montag walked to the kitchen and threw the book down. Montag, he said, you're really stupid. Where do we go from here? Do we turn the books in, forget it? He opened the book to read over Mildred's laughter. Poor Millie, he thought. Poor Montag, it's mud to you, too. But where do you get help? Where do you find a teacher this late? Hold on. He shut his eyes. Yes, of course. Again, he found himself thinking of the Green Park a year ago. The thought had been with him many times recently, but now he remembered how it was that day in the city park when he had seen that old man in the black suit hide something, quickly, in his coat. The old man leapt up as if to run, and Montag said, Wait! I haven't done anything, cried the old man, trembling. No one said you did. They had sat in the green, soft light without saying a word for a moment, and then Montag talked about the weather, and then the old man responded with a pale voice. It was a strange, quiet meeting. The old man admitted to being a retired English professor who had been thrown out upon the world 40 years ago when the last liberal arts college shut for lack of students and patronage. His name was Faber, and when he finally lost his fear of Montag, he talked in a cadenced voice, looking at the sky and the trees and the Green Park, and when an hour had passed, he said something to Montag, and Montag sensed it was a rhymeless poem. Then the old man grew even more courageous and said something else, and that was a poem, too. Faber held his hand over his left coat pocket and spoke these words gently, and Montag knew if he reached out, he might pull a book of poetry from the man's coat. But he did not reach out. His hand stayed on his knees, numbed and useless. I don't talk things, sir, said Faber. I talk the meaning of things. I sit here and know I'm alive. That was all there was to it, really. An hour of monologue, a poem, a comment, and then without either acknowledging the fact that Montag was a fireman, Faber, with a certain trembling, wrote his address on a slip of paper. For your file, he said, in case you decide to be angry with me. I'm not angry, Montag said, surprised. Mildred shrieked with laughter in the hall. Montag went to his bedroom closet and flipped through his file wallet to the heading Future Investigations, query. Faber's name was there. He hadn't turned it in, and he hadn't erased it. He dialed the call on a secondary phone. The phone on the far end of the line called Faber's name a dozen times before the professor answered in a faint voice. Montag identified himself and was met with a lengthy silence. Yes, Mr. Montag? Professor Faber, I have a rather odd question to ask. How many copies of the Bible are left in this country? I don't know what you're talking about. I want to know if there are any copies left at all. This is some sort of trap. I can't talk to just anyone on the phone. How many copies of Shakespeare and Plato? None. You know as well as I do. None. Faber hung up. Montag put down the phone. None. A thing he knew, of course, from the firehouse listings. But somehow he had wanted to hear it from Faber himself. In the hall, Mildred's face was suffused with excitement. Well, the ladies are coming over. Montag showed her a book. This is the Old and New Testament, and don't start that again. It might be the last copy in this part of the world. You've got to hand it back tonight, don't you? Captain Beatty knows you got it, doesn't he? I don't think he knows which book I stole. But how do I choose a substitute? Do I turn in Mr. Jefferson? Mr. Thoreau? Which is least valuable? If I pick a substitute, And Beatty does know which book I stole. He'll guess we've an entire library here. Mildred's mouth twitched. See what you're doing? You'll ruin us. Who's more important, me or that Bible? She was beginning to shriek now, sitting there like a wax doll melting in its own heat. He could hear Beatty's voice. Sit down, Montag. Watch. Delicately, like the petals of a flower. Light the first page. Light the second page. Each becomes a black butterfly. Beautiful, eh? Light the third page from the second, and so on. Chain smoking, chapter by chapter. All the silly things the words mean. All the false promises. All the second-hand notions and time-worn philosophies. There sat Beatty, perspiring gently, the floor littered with swarms of black moths that had died in a single storm. Mildred stopped screaming as quickly as she started. Montag was not listening. There's only one thing to do, he said. Sometime before tonight, when I give the book to Beatty, I've got to have a duplicate made. You'll be here for the White Clown tonight, and the ladies coming over? Cried Mildred. Montag stopped at the door, with his back turned. Millie? A silence. What? Millie, does the White Clown love you? No answer. Millie, does... He licked his lips. Does your family love you? Love you very much? Love you with all their heart and soul, Millie? He felt her blinking slowly at the back of his neck. Why do you ask a silly question like that? He felt he wanted to cry, but nothing would happen to his eyes or his mouth. If you see that dog outside, said Mildred, give him a kick for me. He hesitated, listening at the door. He opened it and stepped out. The rain had stopped, and the sun was setting in the clear sky. The street and the lawn and the porch were empty. He let his breath go in a great sigh. He slammed the door. He was on the subway. I'm numb, he thought. When did the numbness really begin in my face, in my body? The night I kicked the pill bottle in the dark, like kicking a buried mine. The numbness will go away, he thought. It'll take time, but I'll do it, or Faber will do it for me. Someone, somewhere will give me back the old face and the old hands the way they were. Even the smile, he thought, the old burnt-in smile, that's gone. I'm lost without it. The subway fled past him. Cream tile, jet black, cream tile, jet black, numerals and darkness, more darkness, and the total adding itself. Once, as a child, he had sat upon a yellow dune by the sea in the middle of the blue and hot summer day, trying to fill a sieve with sand, because some cruel cousin had said, fill this sieve and you'll get a dime. And the faster he poured, the faster it sifted through with a hot whispering. His hands were tired, the sand was boiling, the sieve was empty. Seated there in the midst of July, without a sound, he felt the tears move down his cheeks. Now, as the vacuum underground rushed him through the dead cellars of town, jolting him, he remembered the terrible logic of that sieve, and he looked down and saw that he was carrying the Bible open. There were people in the suction train, but he held the book in his hands, and the silly thought came to him, if you read fast and read all, maybe some of the sand will stay in the sieve. But he read, and the words fell through, and he thought, in a few hours, there will be Beatty, and here will be me, handing this over, so no phrase must escape me. Each line must be memorized. I will myself to do it. He clenched the book in his fists. Trumpets blared. Denham's dentifrice. Shut up, thought Montag. Consider the lilies of the field. Denham's dentifrice. They toil not. Denham's, consider the lilies of the field. Shut up, shut up. Dentifrice! He tore the book open and flicked the pages and felt of them as if he were blind. He picked at the shape of the individual letters, not blinking. Denham's, spelled D-E-N. They toil not, neither do they. A fierce whisper of hot sand through empty sieve. Denham's does it. Consider the lilies, the lilies, the lilies. Denham's dental detergent. Shut up, shut up, shut up! It was a plea, a cry so terrible that Montag found himself on his feet, the shocked inhabitants of the loud car staring, moving back from this man with the insane, gorged face, the gibbering, dry mouth, the flapping book in his fist. The people who had been sitting a moment before, tapping their feet to the rhythm of Denham's dentifrice, Denham's dandy dental detergent, Denham's dentifrice, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The people whose mouths had been faintly twitching the words dentifrice. The train radio vomited upon Montag in retaliation a great tonload of music made of tin, copper, silver, chromium, and brass. The people were pounded into submission. They did not run. There was no place to run. The great air train fell down its shaft in the earth. Lilies of the field. Denham's! Lilies, I said. The people stared. Call the guard. The man's up. Knoll View. The train hissed to its stop. Knoll View. A cry. Denham's. A whisper. Montag's mouth barely moved. Lilies. The train door whistled open. Montag stood. The door gasped, started shut. Only then did he leap past the other passengers, screaming in his mind, plunged through the slicing door only in time. He ran on the white tiles up through the tunnels, ignoring the escalators because he wanted to feel his feet move. Arms swing, lungs clench, unclench, feel his throat go raw with air. A voice drifted after him. Denham's, Denham's, Denham's. The train hissed like a snake. The train vanished in its hole. Who is it? Montag out here. What do you want? Let me in. I haven't done anything. I'm alone, damn it. You swear it? I swear. The front door opened slowly. Faber peered out, looking very old in the light, and very fragile and very much afraid. The old man looked as if he had not been out of the house in years. He and the white plaster walls inside were much the same. There was white in the flesh of his mouth and his cheeks, and his hair was white, and his eyes had faded, with white in the vague blueness there. Then his eyes touched on the book under Montag's arm, and he did not look so old anymore, and not quite as fragile. Slowly his fear went. I'm sorry. One has to be careful. He looked at the book under Montag's arm, and could not stop. So it's true. Montag stepped inside. The door shut. Sit down. Faber backed up, as if he feared the book might vanish if he took his eyes from it. Behind him, the door to a bedroom stood open, and in that room, a litter of machinery and steel tools were strewn upon a desktop. Montag had only a glimpse before Faber, seeing Montag's attention diverted, turned quickly and shut the bedroom door and stood holding the knob with a trembling hand. His gaze returned unsteadily to Montag, who was now seated with the book in his lap. The book, where did you... I stole it. Faber, for the first time, raised his eyes and looked directly into Montag's face. You're brave. No, said Montag. My wife's dying. A friend of mine's already dead. Someone who may have been a friend was burnt less than 24 hours ago. You're the only one I knew might help me. To see. Faber's hands itched on his knees. May I? Sorry. Montag gave him the book. It's been a long time. I'm not a religious man, but it's been a long time. Faber turned the pages, stopping here and there to read. It's as good as I remember. Lord, how they've changed it in our parlors these days. Christ is one of the family now. I often wonder if God recognizes his own son the way we've dressed him up, or is it dressed him down? He's a regular peppermint stick now, all sugar, crystal, and saccharin when he isn't making veiled references to certain commercial products that every worshiper absolutely needs. Faber sniffed the book. Do you know that books smell like nutmeg or some spice from a foreign land? I loved to smell them when I was a boy. Lord, there were a lot of lovely books once, before we let them go. Faber turned the pages. Mr. Montag, you are looking at a coward. I saw the way things were going a long time back. I said nothing. I'm one of the innocents who could have spoken up and out when no one would listen to the guilty, but I did not speak and thus became guilty myself. And when finally they set the structure to burn the books using the firemen, I grunted a few times and subsided, for there were no others grunting or yelling with me by then. Now it's too late. Faber closed the Bible. Well, suppose you tell me why you came here. Nobody listens anymore. I can't talk to the walls because they're yelling at me. I can't talk to my wife. She listens to the walls. I just want someone to hear what I have to say, and maybe if I talk long enough, it'll make sense. And I want you to teach me to understand what I read. Faber examined Montag's thin, blue-jowled face. How did you get shaken up? What knocked the torch out of your hands? I don't know. We have everything we need to be happy, but we aren't happy. Something's missing. I looked around. The only thing I positively knew was gone was the books I'd burned in 10 or 12 years. So I thought books might help. You're a hopeless romantic, said Faber. It would be funny if it were not serious. It's not books you need. It's some of the things that once were in books. The same things could be in the parlor families today. The same infinite detail and awareness could be projected through the radios and televisors, but are not. No, it's not books at all you're looking for. Take it where you can find it. In old phonograph records, old motion pictures, and in old friends. Look for it in nature, and look for it in yourself. Books were only one type of receptacle where we stored a lot of things we were afraid we might forget. There's nothing magical in them at all. The magic is only in what books say, how they stitched the patches of the universe together into one garment for us. Of course, you couldn't know this. Of course, you still can't understand what I mean when I say all this. You are intuitively right. That's what counts. 3 things are missing. Number 1, do you know why books such as this are so important? Because they have quality. And what does the word quality mean? To me, it means texture. This book has pores. It has features. This book can go under the microscope. You'd find life under the glass streaming past in infinite profusion. The more pores, the more truthfully recorded details of life per square inch you can get on a sheet of paper, the more literary you are. That's my definition anyway. Telling detail. Fresh detail. The good writers touch life often. The mediocre ones run a quick hand over her. And the bad ones rape her and leave her for the flies. So now, do you see why books are hated and feared? They show the pores in the face of life. The comfortable people want only wax moon faces, poreless, hairless, expressionless. We are living in a time when flowers are trying to live on flowers instead of growing on good rain and black loam. Even fireworks, for all their prettiness, come from the chemistry of the earth. Yet somehow we think we can grow, feeding on flowers and fireworks without completing the cycle back to reality. Do you know the legend of Hercules and Antaeus, the giant wrestler, whose strength was incredible so long as he stood firmly on the earth? But when he was held, rootless, in midair by Hercules, he perished easily. If there isn't something in that legend for us today, in this city, in our time, then I am completely insane. Well, there we have the first thing I said we needed. Quality. Texture of information. And the second? Leisure. Oh, but we've plenty of off hours. Off hours.
All right, we're gonna have to stop there because we are running out of time. So, but I do expect you guys to finish part 2, which there is, let's see, there's not much left of it really. Like I said, it's a shorter part. But like I said, we started it, hopefully got you into it a little bit. So I'm showing that there is about 20 pages left. So 20 pages left. So, which I think you guys can handle reading 20 pages in a day. It's not that hard. And they're big letters, big words. I mean, like it's not little print. So the pages aren't that long. So it's a short 20 pages. So, what page do you're going to read part 3. So it's page 106. So read all of part 2, okay? Read all of part 2. And then you're going to complete the study guide, and that's going to be your homework, okay? That's your homework, all right? Any questions? All right, you guys, I'll see you on Friday. You guys have a great week. Bye.